There we go. And it says it's recording through the little mic thingies. Beautiful. Must be an interesting first take. It also doesn't help that the light is behind us, the natural light is behind us and not in front of us. So it creates a silhouetting effect over our wet asses.
I feel like I can see us pretty well.
Yeah. Next time I'll make sure to bring like the actual attachment for the tripod and be much better, easier.
For sure.
Right now I'm just worried about the mic in the interview, whatever. But my goal, if planned accordingly, this will be the second episode of the third season of the Uncrowned Podcast.
Okay.
Because the first season was my first go around. Second season was with my old RIP co-host, Mike. May he rest in peace. And this is going to be my third go around. So I want to make one by myself, kind of being like where I've been, what's been going on, why the long break. And I want to begin kicking off the new podcast and this new venture by doing a series called The Mentor's Mentor, where I interview as many people as I possibly could that I've either learned stuff from, learn about, or have helped me along my journey, especially for a lot of the gentlemen that didn't have father figures growing up, currently don't have father figures now, because this applies for all age ranges. Yeah. Regardless if you're 15 or 60, if you didn't have a present father figure, you didn't have one. It is what it is. So I call it the mentor's mentor because I mentor other men. Well, okay, who did I get my stuff from? Where did I get shaped by?
Sure.
And definitely wanted to start with you because especially in the last, we've been friends 2 years now?
3.
3? Going on 3, yeah.
I've been at B-Dubs now a year, and I was at Topgolf for 2 years. And you came in 6 months after I took over?
Yep.
So we're about 3 years now.
Well, time flies.
It's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
So with that being said, just in the few years that I've known you, you've definitely been a very positive influence on my life. And I know for a fact you've been a very positive influence on other people's lives. So let's begin. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Uncrowned Podcast. I say ladies too, because some ladies do listen to this and they see it beneficial. I am JB Motivation, and today I'll be interviewing my best friend, mentor, gym partner, whatever you want to call it, Stephen Taylor. He is a world-renowned natural bodybuilder. I'm kidding. No, we'll get into all that stuff later, but I don't want to intro this too much because I feel like it's already what I said. You know, we're kicking everything off. We're starting new. But what I really wanted to pick your brain about is where you came from. How did you become the man that you are? Because the way I see you is you're very patient when you're not in prep. But you're very knowledgeable on a bunch of random different things. But you have advice for everything, it seems like. Mm-hmm. And from the little bit that you've told me, I'll get stories here and there. You didn't have the best upbringing. So it's kind of like that story of like coming from nothing, but not letting that define you. So I would kind of like to, I know you said you're adopted, so I guess we could start there, maybe?
Well, we'd probably start with my first third of my life, my upbringing,
for reference, how old are you? So what is a third for you?
42.
Okay. Because people look at you.
We're talking pre-12 years old.
Right.
I had the movie series childhood as far as like you watch Netflix and it's like, holy cow, that's a crazy story.
Yeah.
Biological mom did all the drugs on the planet that there was to do, and men were more important, and she made a lot of bad decisions. There were 4 of us in the house. At age 5, I was taking care of 3 children and making dinner for them and doing things that someone would be a middle teen, a 15, 16-year-old would be doing. And I did that from age 5 until I was about 9 years old, as I took care of my 2 sisters and my brother while living in an environment that had tons of abuse in all of the forms that you can imagine. Getting into that's a totally different podcast.
Yeah.
But even my oldest child, we have 2 children, my wife and I, has recently asked, because that person has come back in the picture as far as like trying to be involved again and trying to explain to her, like, this is the stuff your dad went through. Mm-hmm. And we kind of just said it that way. Netflix series, The worst you can imagine, we did that. That's what I went through. And so we went into foster care when I was about 9 years old. I went through 22 different foster homes. And I think that's what originally started this positivity in my life, because my thoughts were, if I lived through that, if I made it through that, nothing can ever be that bad.
Right.
Oh, no, you got bills to pay. Okay. I'm not dealing with that.
Yeah.
Oh, you got fired from your job. Oh, you didn't get this promotion. You didn't get this girl. It was all better than that.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine, and God has been very good to me as far as my adult life. I can't imagine life being worse than that. So if it's not that, everything's good. Everything's golden. And, I had that typical rebel middle years where I didn't have that father figure, didn't have that mentor. So I had to figure all that out for myself.
Mm.
Those are some interesting, trying years. A lot of fights with people in my age, fights with people that were around me in my life that they thought they were supporting me. I figured the world was against me, type of a deal. Then in my early 20s, after leaving home and getting done playing football, which was another one of those life lessons.
Mm.
The neighborhood I grew up in was not the most ideal neighborhood. And I went to go play football, and my coach told me after 2 weeks of practice, if you don't speak correctly and act like a man, you can't be on this team. I had a full ride scholarship.
Right.
So I certainly didn't want to lose that. So I put on a different mask, and I decided to be that man. I'm going to be respectful. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z so I can stay on the team, so they can pay for my schooling, so I can have the life I want to have. Got done with football, and then so much was done for you as an athlete that I got out into the real world, and I had no clue how to act. I had no clue about nutrition, about working out, about how to be in society, because I was told when to wake up, where to have breakfast, when to have lunch, when to watch film, when to play football, when to lift weights. So much so that, a quick side story, I got out of football and I wanted to bench 300 pounds. That was like my goal.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to bench 300 pounds. So I go into GNC for the day, and I tell the guy at the counter, the guy working there, I'm like, I want to bench 300 pounds. What can I take to bench 300 pounds? And he's like, that's stupid. I'm like, interesting take, but whatever. That's what I want to do. Just tell me what I got to take, what I got to do. Because I'm used to people telling me, this is what you have to do this. You want to throw the football better. You want to play better. You want to do this. You have a knee injury. We're going to give you a shot. Like, I'm used to them telling me what's going to happen. And the argument got to such a point where I ended up grabbing the guy and throwing him against the freaking wall and being like, you could have told me to drink orange juice and I would have believed you. Just sell me something. And I ended up storming out and leaving. But I realized at that point, I don't have a freaking clue about anything.
Yeah.
So I spent from then until I was about 27 just trying to figure out who I was. I lived in Atlanta, Baltimore, Austin, Texas, Lakeland, Florida. I was in Chicago for a bit, Green Bay for a bit, and working up through the restaurant business. It gives you a lot of insight about people and how people act and how people think, what motivates people, what people just give up on. I mean, you see a lot of those in the restaurant business, like, oh, I wanted to be a doctor, now I'm waiting tables, or I wanted to do this and now I'm doing this. And it gave me a good insight on, like, well, what do I want to do?
Mm-hmm.
What do I want in life? And the thing that meant the most to me was creating a family, being a foster kid, being adopted.
Mm-hmm.
I was never in my family. It was always someone else's family, and I was just part of it.
Right.
So my main motivator was I needed to create my own family. And it definitely, from that 20 to 27, I needed that time to figure out who I was. And by the time I turned 30, I knew who I was. I was very motivated. I was in the gym all the time. I was a general manager of a restaurant. Any goal I wanted, there was no such thing as saying no to me for that goal.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to figure it out. And I had enough trials in my life to know what I didn't want. And then at 31, I met my wife. And we had been together a short time. And I was like, listen, this is my life. This is what happens in my life. I'm choosing to be with you. If you want to be part of this ride and it's going to be a fun ride, awesome. If not, I wish you nothing best, the best in the world.
Right.
Go do your thing. And she's like, nope, I won't be part of this. And since then, kind of like you said, I've just looked for people who needed that guidance, who they were on the verge of something and they just needed someone to be motivating for them, be a positive influence to them. If they needed to talk about God, we could talk about that. For people who know me, I am a very spiritual person, but not a super religious person.
Right.
So whatever they needed, I was able to be that person. And because of that first third of my life, I was always positive. We could always fix anything. Nothing was ever truly broken. We could always fix something. And that's kind of the short and sweet version of 42 years of life. I mean, we could have 7 hours. We could have
you and me both. Yeah.
We could break my life down into thirds and have full blown stories, and like hell, on parts of my life we could make movies.
Yeah.
Which several people have been like, can I write a story? I'm like, I don't. Yeah. There's too much there. So don't know if we want to go that route.
So do you think that, especially because you were growing up, you had a lack of a lot, right? Mm-hmm. So you had to almost like fill in those spots. And did jumping through so many foster homes make you feel like this is like almost like people pleasing personality? That's why you now, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like now you want to be able to always be that, like whatever it is, you want to be that guy, right? Because maybe growing up, you maybe felt like you were never that person. So now no one can tell you no, you can be that guy.
I think to a point, definitely, if anyone who knows me would not call me a people pleaser. I will give you the facts of what you should do.
Right.
What you do with that information, that is your problem.
Yeah.
I will be there to cheer you on and motivate you. But if you're not willing to do the work, I'll leave you standing where you're standing.
No, yeah.
So I wouldn't say people pleasing. I definitely have people in my life who are that way. My wife is a wonderful person, but very much a people pleaser. So not that aspect. It's that I want people to be the best version of themselves. And sometimes when you're in the middle of it, you can't see what the best version of you is when someone else can. They can see this is where you have the potential to go, when sometimes you're like, I've had all this happen. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. I've tried this. Yeah, but keep trying.
Okay, don't call me out.
Pushing. Keep going through things. It's all that hard work I'm living proof of it, will pan out.
Yeah, from what I've noticed, like my story, your story, a couple other people's, I feel like it's almost like a rite of passage. As much as some people totally disagree with me, and I've had in-depth conversations about this, I am always on the side that men need to struggle to grow. If you not have any like thing that really pushes you up against the corner with no one helping you, where you either choose to die, like let yourself go, and natural selection will take its course, such as life, or you will rise on top, become better, and then that's where that's like your rite of passage into manhood. And I feel like a lot of the strong men that I've ever met, we all had to go through that. And when I got into this argument, I'm not going to name names on who that was with, but they were like, oh, you don't need to struggle. You shouldn't feel this need to struggle. And it's not that I'm going out and purposely seeking that struggle. Like when you were a kid, you didn't purposely put yourself in the foster home and be like, you know what? I need to toughen up. Let me put myself through all this. But it's overcoming those situations that life throws at you instead of running away from them. That ability to face adversity helps us turn us into the men that we are, because it refines and builds that character.
No, pain makes you grow. Period.
Yeah.
It's the same thing in the gym. If you don't go in there and put yourself through a little bit of pain, not injury, a little bit of pain, nothing will grow. You will maintain the same. Mm-hmm. But if you want to grow and be better, you have to go through pain. Pain is part of the growth process. And one of the things I always do, and I did it this last season, I told you and I told Coach, burn the boats. There's no going back. Mm-hmm. There were plenty of times getting ready for the national show where I was like, man, I'm done. Forget this stuff.
You had that 1 week where I was actually worried about you.
But in my mentality is there was no stopping. There was no stopping. That wasn't a legitimate option. You can cross your mind, but it wasn't a legitimate option. We burned the boats. There was no going back.
Yeah.
We are finishing this. We're getting to the end. And that's very much what I teach my kids. I was like, you're a tailor. We see things through. We go to the end. At the end, if you don't want to do this again, by all means, no problem. But if you've made a commitment that you're going to do this, I don't care what obstacle got in the way. Figure it out. Go over it. Go around it. Dig under it. Whatever you have to do, burn the boats.
Yeah.
We're doing this.
Yeah. Now, do you think that is a major disservice in this up-and-coming generation, is that we are not letting the young men burn the boats or not letting them see it through?
That's a parenting.
Or even just like, again, we are not like the rest of society, which is why I do stuff like this.
That's a parenting thing. My kids very much are that way.
Yeah.
And to a fault sometimes. My youngest wants the answer no matter what it is. And sometimes as a parent, you're like, it is what it is. I said it and that's it.
Yeah.
And my youngest is like, I want to know why. I'll do whatever you want, but I need to know why. I need to be motivated to go through with this. So, I mean, she's so much me in so many ways. There was a situation with you where you're a grown man and she grabbed you by the face and gave you a pep talk, and she was 7 years old.
Yep.
And another example is my oldest. And I was like, did I send this to her? She sent me a video the other day that was, you can't always control where the wind blows, but you can control your sails. And what that means is you can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you react to what happens to you. And I was like, okay, someone's been listening. So very much, I've done my good job at being a parent. Both of my kids are very motivating, and they do a lot of similar things that I do when they see someone who needs that motivation, that pep talk, that you can do this. They jump right in and like unsolicited, like just out of nowhere. And I do think when we're talking about parenting and this current generation, that shows lack of male presence in a house.
Yeah.
That shows lack of discipline. And you made a decision, you're going to see this decision through. Too many times I've seen, even in my career, I've had to father many different people at my work. In fact, there was one year I got 4 Father's Day cards from kids that weren't even mine. They were just employees that I had because I was there as a father figure for these folks. And I love that. There's still a couple of them that, oddly enough, text me and call me dad.
Yeah, I remember you telling me.
One of them, I had to cancel that relationship because she was really treating me like a dad. Like, I need money, I need this. And I'm like, I am not your dad.
Let me get a tax write-off and then we'll talk.
But that discipline side, that consistency, that we're gonna get through this type of conversation. Too many people I see in my job are like, adversity, no, I'm done, and they walk away. And it's like,
yeah,
it's just an adversity. Like, push through.
Yeah,
figure out a way around it.
100%. I mean, I had this talk about. I think I was telling you about it. Like, you could only bring because we have primarily boys. We have one girl, but primarily boys. Like, you could only bring them so far. She was explaining how she's always had a little bit of trouble with them. Like, because your job to be their mom. They won't take you seriously if you try to be the dad.
Right.
I'm like, the reason why you keep hitting that wall or things have gone on for this long that shouldn't have been going on is because they don't respect you like that. They'll always see you as the mom.
Okay. So I agree with that.
Okay.
But I have a small rebuttal to that.
Send it.
They don't see you as a threat.
Okay.
As a dad, I'm a threat. If I have a boy, he knows if it gets to that point, someone's getting their ass whooped.
Now, do you think that needs to be there?
It has to be there.
Yeah.
You have to have somewhat of a threat as a parent. And I am 100% my childhood against beating your children. That is an absolute no, zero tolerance. But knowing your dad can kick your ass when you're 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, you won't cross that line. You're not going to cross that line. I was with my mom. I call my mom. It's my adoptive mom. And I was 16 years old. And I looked her in the face and I said, I listen to you because I choose to listen to you. I could knock you out if I wanted to. And I told it to my mom. I was like, I choose to listen to you because I respect and I love you.
That was such like a complimented backslap.
100%. But what I was doing, and again, I'm 16 years old, not the person I am now.
Yeah.
I was making it known. I was making the choice to respect and listen to you. If that had been my dad would have showed me that I was wrong.
Yeah.
My biological dad, who I've never met, by the way, is built like me, 6'2". He was 255 pounds. He worked in the auto industry his entire life.
Oh, so he had that old man strength.
I'm sure at 16 years old, that would have been an interesting interaction.
Yeah.
Again, never got to meet the guy. Actually, when I started to look for him, he had died like 3 years prior.
Oh, yeah.
So I have no idea if he was a good guy, bad guy. That whole, again, another story for another time.
Right.
But I think that is, when we talk about that male influence in the family, I think that's truly missing. And again, I'm not condoning people beating up their children and stuff like that, or hitting their children. That's not what I'm saying. The thought in your head that I have someone who could dominate me if they wanted to is enough to be like, I have to respect this person. I need to do this. If they have shown me true grit and pushing through, then that's a great example for me. And there are definitely moms out there who work 3 jobs and, do all these extra things. But coming from a child of that exact environment, you more pity that situation than view that as, that's what I want to be. That's what I'm striving to be, is someone who can, barely put food on the table and is upset and cries and has hard days. You more have pity for your mom when she's in that situation. And then that leads to you defending your mom. But then when you're in those tough situations, you're like, I don't know how properly to react to this. I don't know what I'm supposed to do in this situation. And that's what, when I was talking from 20 to 27, I had to figure that out.
Right.
Because I left my house at 17 and moved to Green Bay.
Yeah.
And I had zero help. So it was rent's due. I had no one to turn to and be like, hey, I need $100.
Right.
I turned and there was no one there. So I was like, okay, I need $100. So I'm going to go be a butcher in the morning. And I'm going to be a server at Red Lobster. And then I'm going to manage at Titletown Brewing Company. Then I'm going to get up in the morning and do the same thing again. So I don't recommend my path. I think it would be better if we had a father in the house who was the example, who was I hate the whole alpha, beta, all that stuff.
Hierarchy.
I think it's a hierarchy in the house.
Yes.
That's who I need to follow. I need that example. And then you have the mom who shows you how to love the world, be kind, help people in need. And you have the balance of the two. What we're missing is the other part. We have the be kind, overreact once in a while. We get too much of that and we're missing this other half. Right. And that's the society we've been bringing up right now.
Yeah, because I mean, you see it too, working in the service industry. But I remember big time, especially when we worked at Topgolf together, the mom would be the one handling all the kids, whatever. The dad's sitting there, beard gut, playing on his phone, and not a care in the world. I'm like, aren't you embarrassed?
Yeah, that's not the kind of dad I'm talking about. I'm talking about an active.
No, but that's what I'm saying though. That to me is sometimes maybe even worse than
just as bad.
Right, not having a father at all. Like, because now you're setting, I'd rather not have an example than have that example.
Agreed. There are bad examples.
You know what I mean? But so you said your dad died a few years before you went looking for him. Do you ever regret not being able to just talk to him or meet him?
Being an adult now in the situation I am now, not that I condone what he did. I wouldn't have stayed with that crazy woman. There's no way. That woman is out of her mind. Like, there's a reason I don't have a relationship with that person. She makes bad decisions. That is not a life partner. Whatever happened between them is what happened. Again, I would have taken my child.
Yeah.
That's what I would have done. I'd have been like, I don't want to be with you, but I want my child. And I'm not going to leave him in an environment like this. And I would have figured out through the court systems or whatever. That's what I would have done. That's not what he did. He tore my picture up and said, do what you want. He never had kids. He did end up marrying way later in life. So the only thing I regret is I wanted one conversation because all I have is what I think he was thinking at the time, since I seem to have a lot more of his traits.
Yeah.
When I look at what I've heard about him and his work ethic and that kind of stuff, the traits I have aren't in my biological mother at all. Fight, drive to do anything, keeping yourself, clean and tidy, and, things around you in routine. Like, she has none of those things. So I'm like, I obviously didn't get those traits from you. And I've seen my siblings who I'm like, I see a couple of her traits. Yeah. So I don't see a lot of the traits through that. So I would love to have gotten a conversation like, how do you think about this? What are your thoughts on these things? Yeah. To kind of get a feel of like, okay,
are you really the bad guy that everyone painted you out to be?
100%. Yeah. Or were you just like, I see a crazy situation and I don't want any part of it?
Well, I mean, that's going to, as much as I hate talking about it, but that's probably going to be the situation that I'm going to end up being in. My son is only going to have one opinion for so long until finally when you get the opportunity to meet him and be like, I bet you he's going to have that moment click of like, you're not who I thought you were going to be at all.
Yeah. And that happens a lot. A lot.
So of all the people that you've mentored, let's say probably like top 3, what are the top 3 things that you would tell? Like if you had a boy, there you go. If you had a boy, because you only have girls, good example. Let's put it in real life perspective. If you had a boy, what would be his like 3 life lessons or his noble truths?
The funny thing is it doesn't change for a boy or girl, because it's the same thing I teach my girls.
Yeah.
When you make a commitment, that's it. You made a commitment, whether that's in a relationship, whether that's in sports, whether that's in a job. When you make a commitment and you give your word that you're going to do that, the only person you're letting down is yourself. You see it through. That's it. The other thing is, we don't say the word I can't. It's a cuss word in our house. You are not allowed to say I can't. I failed today, 100% that can happen. But there's no such thing as I can't. Whatever you want to do, you can either read books, you can either get mentored by somebody, you can do an apprenticeship. There is nothing that you can't do.
Yeah.
And then the last thing would be loyalty. My thing is this is to a fault, and I've been told this is to a fault, is I am loyal to people to a fault. And it kind of goes back to that commitment thing. Once I've made a commitment to someone that I'm going to be there and I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and I will be that rock that you need, I have never failed at that. Never failed. Whenever someone needs me, I've been called at 3 a.m. I have a buddy, and we're friends, but we're at this point, just in our friendship, loose friends. Call me at 3 a.m.
Open relationship.
Sure. Called me at 3 a.m. He'd been kicked out of his house. I got up out of bed. I drove 45 minutes to get him, and he lived with me for 6 months.
Yeah.
I've had friends call me at 1 a.m. Hey, I got pulled over by the cops. I'm way up in the chain of lakes. I'm on the way. I've had one of my great friends, he's also in a similar family relationship. His mothers are together, and his stepmom was killed in the prison. He called me up. I took 3 PATO days and went straight to Iowa to be with him for those days. There is no question. You call me, I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
And I think you've seen that,
Yeah. Hey, my car broke down and we're in the middle of nowhere. Our phones have no service. You're literally the only person I can reach.
And I showed up.
Yes, you did.
So those would be the 3 things that I would tell my child. And then I have told my children. We live by those 3 rules. And we do not break those 3 rules for anything. So that would be my thing. If I had a boy, he would have gotten that same speech. So.
Yeah, you got to pray for whatever dude decides to date one of your daughters.
It'll be interesting. I'll be probably in this same attire, probably butchering a cow, since I was a butcher for 3 years. Yeah. In this garage with all my trophies for bodybuilding, and have a shotgun or 2 or a 9mm sitting on a table.
Yeah.
If he doesn't leave soiling himself, I failed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I would be horrified if I walked into that 15, 16 years old, 19, whatever that, that first real date ends up being.
Yeah. But if they end up seeking out a man that's like you, I don't think you would be intimidated.
I think I still would have freaked out.
Really?
Dude, butchering a cow with bodybuilding trophies dressed like me with guns sitting on the table, and I don't know you.
Fair.
I've had no pre-conversation. Like I haven't, I am a very, very calm, easygoing, I'm a teddy bear. You know, I mean, my nickname's the Incredible Hulk for a reason.
Yep.
I'm very mild-mannered. It takes a lot to get me to turn into the other guy, but you don't want that other guy.
Right.
Like we leave that other guy alone.
Yep.
So if they don't have that prerequisite and that's what they walk into,
Fair.
I think I even would be like, what?
Yeah.
Guys, I need backup.
So we talked about your past, kind of what's going on now. And I know you have possible promotion coming up. Obviously, no matter what you do, you're going to be in charge of something, right? And I know when we talked a while ago about this, how you were going to maybe dabble in the coaching space at all. Is there still any mind to that? Because you're already a mentor for free in everyday life.
Sure.
Would you ever think about like doing it on the side or making anything of that? Because you're obviously still very good at it regardless.
My main issue with that, and I tried it 2 years ago, I have a real hard time when I have that coaching label and someone doesn't listen. Whether I'm right or wrong, once I'm at a point where I'm teaching you and coaching you through something, I don't mind a little feedback, but just do what I ask you to do.
Yeah.
Because I've already done this. I know what success looks like. So for like right now, kind of an example of that is I'm training my assistant general manager. And I know what it takes to be a successful manager in a restaurant. There's very little that I think someone could tell me that I would have an aha moment. Like, oh my God, I never thought of it that way. Just listen to things I'm telling you. Read the books I tell you to read. Do the practice work of doing inventory, doing forecasts and that kind of stuff. And you're not at a point right now. You're in zone A. It's just listening time. When we get to zone D, that's when we start having communication back and forth on what you saw versus what I saw. And then we kind of collaborate. But there's different zones we have to pass through. A lot of that coaching for bodybuilding, I feel like you're usually in zone A. You don't know everything. Your form isn't perfect. Your eating isn't right on. So I just need you to shut up and listen.
Yeah.
So, and I have a real hard time when people don't do that, because then I feel like I have such limited time and now you're wasting my time. And so I just, I need to step away and let you do your thing. Cause like I said before, I don't get riled up. And so I'll just be like, all right, well, you don't want to listen. So,
well, yeah, I mean, again, you have to remember too, someone says jump and you go, okay, how high?
Yep.
Not everyone is like that. The military would have ate you up, which you would have been a great and a much needed leader or like NCO in the military, because I had a lot of crappy ones. But yeah, not everyone is like that. You know, everyone has to have an opinion and everyone's opinion matters now.
In zone D, your opinion can matter. We're in zone A. Your opinion doesn't matter at the moment.
But no, I think I would get too frustrated and stressed out with coaching because people aren't like me and like you, where it's just like, well, this person knows more than I do, whether I agree with them all the time. And I did this last season when I was doing bodybuilding. There were plenty of times where I'm like, I don't know. I pay you for a reason. So I'm going to do what you told me to do. And then when we get done at the end, we can sit down and be like, this worked, this didn't work. We should have tweaked this. I wish I could have done this, yada, yada. And so I just think that would cause me too much stress and I wouldn't enjoy it. Fair enough. I think we pretty much covered anything or everything. Is there anything else you want to say, want to talk about? I figure you're going to be a guest on the podcast under probably less formal pretenses.
For sure.
But this is a good introductory episode.
My main takeaway, again, would go back to what I said is live to your commitments. Figure out a way. Whatever your goal is, set your goal, burn the boats, figure out a way, get to your goal. If you're not better this year than you were last year, you failed. What did you do to make yourself better? And then stay to your loyalties. If you were supposed to be there for somebody and you thought it was more important to go to a party that night than be at something that was important to them, shame on you. Shame on you.
So I'm laughing because I know what you're talking about.
But that's the one situation you're talking about. Yes.
Just because it's most recent, but yes.
But there's so many times that happens
Mm-hmm.
that so-and-so shows up for you. I'm there for you. I do this for you. I do this for you. I've done this for you. Now, when I needed something, you don't show up.
Right.
Because it was more important for you to go to the pool that day.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't have a family emergency. So hold to your loyalties.
Yeah. My whole thing is, if I say I'm coming, I'm coming. I promise you I'm not going to be on time, but I will always show up.
Sure. I'm very much an on-time person.
I'm like, I can at least give you that much. If I say I'm coming, I will be there.
Yeah.
Just, I will probably be a little bit late.
Yeah, that's fine. As long as you show up. Those would be the main things.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about this entire conversation, those are the things that I would want someone to fully embrace and be like, if I do those things, I'm most likely going to lead a successful life.
No.
And people will be there when they need to be there. They know that I'm the rock that they can count on. I'm doing fine.
Yeah. No, I have to agree with you. I feel like it's hard doing like more interview style podcasts, especially when we're talking about someone's life, because there's only so many different like rabbit holes or tangents we go on.
Hours.
Well, not only that, but it's very linear. We're talking about only your life and your experience and everything like that. Whereas if, like, I know a lot of my other podcasts have been on like the dynamic between masculinity and femininity, or just overcoming certain things. And then we really just get it, or you talk about how crappy the level of masculinity is now in America. And that leads us down a whole different tangent.
Oh, because you could talk about food.
Oh my gosh.
Media.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that for now, this is a good introduction start to the podcast until probably in a little bit different recording situation. We're a little more riled up. I don't know. I'm known for...
You get a little hyped up.
I do.
I am. I'm a good yin to your yang in that effect, is I am a very calm person. And I think in those situations, I can help bring you back down to a level that conversation doesn't seem so, because sometimes it's hard for people to continue with that tangent and be like, no, I'm following him. Okay, you're getting a little crazy. Okay. So like,
I'm just gonna
bring you back to the center. Because people, of course, are very passionate about certain things. And, you know, when you're watching a podcast and you're really trying to get involved with it, and then they're like, okay, you're losing me. Well, that's a limit I wasn't ready to go to.
Right. Then I'll end up saying something that gets me in trouble.
Yeah. So I think I balance you very well in that aspect. And I do a good job at challenging you to be like, okay,
yeah,
valid. I still believe what I believe, but I see that point.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm excited to see what we can do with this moving forward. But anyway, I'm gonna, let's see, when I get this up and running, I'm gonna try to get it back uploaded on all the social media platforms, so Spotify, Apple Play, Amazon, all that crap. It's just a lot of going through and digging up. But I think once I have everything all reactivated, that's what we'll be able to find me on. If you guys want to follow Stefan, you want to give your social media shout outs?
How I got mine is unreal that there's no numbers. It's literally Stephen, STEPHEN _Hulk. And the fact that there's no numbers behind it is absolutely insane.
Well, when did you make your Instagram? Like 2005?
Like 4 BC.
Yeah, right. Back when it was literally just pictures.
They're on tablets.
Yeah.
So it's super easy. Stephen _Hulk.
Awesome. And then Joe Buttice 3 or JB Motivation 777, either or.
Big numbers.
Well, I always had the 3 because I'm the third. Otherwise, I would have the same handle as my dad or my grandfather. So I have to have the 3. Otherwise, you search Joe Buttice, you get 17 of us because there's a whole bunch of us.
Right.
And we're all in the same family. And then the 777 was just because 7 is the holy number for God and all that stuff. I don't know. This is something stupid I decided to do. But yeah, other than that, thank you so much, guys. Hope we can continue this and look forward to hopefully having the time to do this more often.
We need to do some lives.
Yes.
I need to do some lives.
Well, what I would probably do for the live then is I would set up the phone for recording, like video recording, and then a computer or a monitor off to the side so we can see the comments go in. So we're recording the podcast, but we can answer questions if need be.
For sure.
So some multi-angle, whatever. But anyway, that's enough of that. Thank you so much. Stay positive, stay motivated, and stay uncrowned.